Okay, well, good afternoon. My name's Andy, and I'm going to talk about the Eurovision Song Contest, but I'm not actually going to talk about the Eurovision Song Contest per se, because what I want to do is settle a question, although I'm sure we won't actually settle it, but it will maybe give you some food for thought. Now, you may be surprised to learn that some people think that it isn't actually a song contest. That, in fact, that's not from a soft porn site, that is actually to demonstrate what they might mean, because I think that was the Polish Milkmaids of 2015.
Wow.
Got very good ratings for that, but I don't think the song won despite that. So why might it not be a song contest? Well, the reasoning is that it's not about the quality of the song, and that it is in fact about other issues such as political ones, because as you may or may not know, the winner is decided by the voting of a jury and the public from each country which is involved in it, and people believe that there are political motives behind that voting. Or it could be that things are just cultural, which we'll explore shortly. But perhaps the reason most people come up with this is because they're thinking, will the UK ever win again? And it seems that it's people from the UK that have this conspiracy theory more than other. I'm not saying it's wrong. So to explore some of those things, there's certain voting trends within the Eurovision Song Contest which seem apparent. And they do tend to be arranged in blocks, which repeat themselves from one contest to the next. And you can see this. You've got the Soviet bloc and the Baltic bloc, Scandinavia, obviously. You've got Eastern Europe. You've got this kind of Central European one. These ones aren't so big, which could explain something.
What's the blue one in Europe?
That's Holland.
The blue, that is Holland.
So we have an ally with Holland.
It seems so. It seems we always have done, yeah.
We vote for each other.
Yeah, and surprisingly, so do the Irish, but obviously we're more friendly than some people make out. And here you've got the Baltic, and you've got this one that's Chris will know about there. Tends to be 12 points each, although of course in Greek it's not point. And so these trends repeat themselves, and so people believe that this is just pure favouritism, and it's not about the quality of the song. However, there are cultural factors. Here we have a typical Englishman. Don't know why he's not wearing trousers. And I think that's an Italian who has got a dog and a chicken.
Could be French.
Be French.
One
That's a
is the
French
Catalan.
post stand.
With the nose, it's got to be a French.
He's Frenchman.
One of the snails.
Are there snails in that? Yes, there are snails. Yeah, it's
Oh,
French.
l'escargot.
Yeah.
Oui.
We.
Thanks for clearing that up. Well, I mean, part of the cultural trend could be that simply people within these different areas, Soviets, Slavs, the Yugoslavian, Balkan area, the Greeks and the Cypriots, of course, the Scandinavians, Baltic states, simply grow up with the same kind of culture. So they like the same kind of music, and they're conditioned to like that kind of music, so they're more likely to be drawn to voting for it. Cultural references, things within there, maybe the Polish Milkmaids, maybe that speaks to a lot of people, but so if people are wearing traditional Balkan dress, it's more likely that a Balkan person is going to be drawn towards it. Regional fame of the performer. You tend to find that someone who's from Russia or from Belarus, from Georgia, etc., they're going to be famous. If they're famous in that country, they're going to be famous in all of those countries. But they might not be famous in Central Europe, and they're probably not going to be famous in Western Europe and Britain. So that tends to lead to getting more votes, which isn't political, it's simply a cultural issue. Language. Now this might be a surprising one, because the interesting thing is that until 1999, people had to, the performer for each country had to perform the song, the lyrics, in an official language of their country, which meant that Russia had to be in Russian, Poland had to be in Polish. Now you might think that, based on the cultural similarities, that would be something which would tend to lead to block voting, but it seems to be that people are more likely to vote for a song that's in English, even if they're not from England. Or at least it spreads the votes for an English song out. So maybe the people that were voting in some countries for an English song tended to vote for England and Ireland, are now voting for other countries because they're performing in English, just because of the hegemony, if you like, of the British Empire and the, America that tends to prevail culture around the world. And of course, with the breakup of the USSR and the Balkans in the 90s, there's now a lot more of these countries involved. So a lot more of the spread of the votes, a lot more votes applying from these countries. UK last one in 1997 with Katrina and the waves. Shine a Light, who is American, but she did phone me up once when I was here. And she was very, very depressed. I don't know whether that was because she was talking to me, but she was just generally, and I did actually mention the Eurovision Song Contest, and I probably wasn't too...
Yeah, so thanks for that.
Yeah, I wasn't very complimentary about it, or at least I said, I'm not sure if you're proud of that. And she said, well, you've got to make a living, haven't you? You've got to pay the rent. And then I never heard from her again. There might be connected. Somebody else is coming from meeting, but we never heard from her again.
Okay, we're at 6.5 minutes.
Blimey. Now, politics, I'll quickly run through this. Politics, people believe there's politics, and there's this big conspiracy theory from people in the UK that the Iraq War had something to do with it, because that happened around the same time. That since then we haven't had anybody. Now, before the Iraq War, we had 5 wins and 15 runners-up. Since the Iraq War, 0-0.
Wow.
So, is that conclusive proof? Probably not, because we've already talked about the other factors. But that's what some people believe. Are the Brits just bad losers? This is the Wogan theory. This is where the rightful winners apparently come from. Everyone over here doesn't, and they're all block voting. That's the conspiracy theory. 75% of British people believe that Eurovision is rigged. For a comparison, in Sweden it's something like 28%, and it tends to be, but that's the much biggest one that there is. So, kind of Brexit, etc., British entitlement. Songs probably just aren't good enough. Conclusion: quality of song probably does matter. Cultural influences are strong. Certain types of song probably have more chance. Songs from some regions probably have more chance. What do you think?
Oh, very
And
good.
that's why
Excellent.
I believe that.